producers. It's your boy Matt from Music Producer School. Hope you're doing well today. All right, so I know as always we have a lot of international students. So, in case you didn't know, we have a big election going on today in the U.S., which is where I am. So, kind of a exciting slash weird day today. So I'll just leave it like that. So we're gonna get started in just a moment. We're covering DJing this week. Now, if you're watching and you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, I'm a music producer. I don't want to be a DJ, or I have no interest in DJing. This week is still going to be very helpful for you because I'm not really I just want to kind of cover this up front. I'm not really going to be covering the physical aspect of DJing, meaning I'm not going to be showing you how to scratch and how to, beat juggle and turntables or CDJs type stuff. What I wanted to do this week was show you guys and girls how when I got super into DJing, how the things I learned in the DJing world really helped me when it came to the producing music world. And I really honestly don't think I would be as good a producer as I am if it hadn't been for DJing, because I just learned so many things from DJing that you're just not going to get from simply sitting in the studio and working on music or working on other people's music. So this is going to be a really cool week, I think, and it's going to be helpful for a lot of you. So as always, first things first, be sure to join the Music Producer School community. I put the link in the Facebook comments. Also, if you're watching, be sure to say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from and hit share on the stream. I appreciate everybody doing that. We have reached, we've got over 20,000 followers now on the Facebook page, which is great. So I really appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and get started, but be sure to join the Music Producer School community where I listen to your tracks every Saturday, and it's been a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So when it comes to DJing, I would say the biggest thing I learned out of all of it was, number one, the importance of tempo. And obviously, even if you're not a DJ, you're probably aware that it's all about kind of mixing songs of, relatively the same tempo in order to transition from one song to the next. So I think if you've never DJ'd yourself, you probably have an idea of how this works, but you've never maybe seen it. What's up, Shady from Egypt? That's cool, man. Thanks for saying hello. If you've never DJ'd yourself, you probably are not super familiar with the process that a DJ uses in order to play songs. Like, you may just think, oh, well, whatever song pops at the top of your head, you just play and hope for the best. And I can tell you that that's not really a good strategy for DJing. So tempo, which we've covered in a week lesson in itself, it's such an important factor, especially when you're producing music. And the thing that's cool about DJing that you really are not going to be able to experience unless you DJ yourself, or I would also recommend, I know we're still in the midst of kind of the Corona stuff, and it's kind of hard to go out still, but I would highly recommend, if you've never been to a club, even if you're not into, say, like hip hop or EDM type music, go to a reputable club that has good DJs and just go for a night and really pay attention to what they're doing and watch how it translates to the dance floor. Because you're going to notice, I would also recommend get yourself a little BPM app for your phone. And what you can do is you can actually tap on your phone and it'll give you the BPM. So when you're listening to the song the DJ's playing, tap along and you might be like, okay, he's playing at 80 BPM. And then when he transitions to the next song, just each song kind of tap along the quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and get the BPM. And then you can kind of see the journey that he's taken the dance floor on. Because, me personally, my thing when I was DJing, I was never really big into, scratching and all that kind of stuff. I was more into trying to take the audience and the dance floor on a journey where they could get kind of comfortable with what was going on, but I would switch it up in ways that weren't super abrupt, but they might be dancing along to something, like 128 BPM, like an EDM house dance song. And then I would transition it down to like 100 BPM, like hip hop or twerk type beat. And it kind of keeps things fresh, but you have to know how to do it so it's not super abrupt, because when people are dancing, they're physically moving their body. So if you throw them a curveball, it's going to be like, whoa, like how do I adjust to this? So there are little tricks that you can do for that, and I'll probably cover some of that stuff. But today, basically what I wanted to cover is I wanted to show you a couple DJ software programs that I've used over the years. And what's interesting about this is you can use them as a producer in a lot of different ways. So let me go ahead and show you the first one, which you can actually get, I believe, both of these softwares for free. So the first one is called Rekordbox. Now, Rekordbox, and because of the the copyright stuff and whatnot, I'm not going to be able to play any of these songs for you, but it's not really important today. Rekordbox is the software that I would use primarily when I would go DJ on the CDJ, the CDJ turntable players, whatever they're called, CDJ 2000s is what I was using for a long time. And basically, what you would do in Rekordbox is you would go in here, you have all of your tracks. I can set up, different folders for things. So you see, like, I have like acapellas here. I have, deep house, electro, instrumentals, all kinds of different stuff, right? So you may also notice over here, I have these number categories. So in the number categories 1 through 12, these correspond to something that you may have never seen before, which I also wanted to show you today. And I'll show you this a little more in depth at another time. But basically, this is called the Camelot Wheel, or the Camelot Mixing System. What it does is you'd actually analyze your songs. So when you take, say, all of your MP3s that you listen to and you throw them into a Rekordbox or a virtual DJ, they actually analyze the key of the songs. So they can pretty accurately these days, they can figure out if it's a major key or if it's a minor key and what key the song is actually in, which is super awesome, because way back in the day, you used to have to do this manually, and it took a lot of time. But nowadays, you just basically scan all of your songs, and you can see when I flip over to Rekordbox, you can see here on the right-hand side, I have my keys all here, 1A. So if I look on the wheel here, 1A corresponds to A flat minor. So the thing about mixing songs as a DJ, a lot of people think it's just about the BPM, and the BPM is the primary driver for what you're mixing with. But we also, as we get better at DJing, we're going to use keys. Now, I'm not going to go too long on this lesson today because there's just so much stuff I could talk about with this, but I wanted to kind of show you your first, practical example of something you could do today to help you make better music. So if I was producing a song, let's say I'm doing like an EDM song that I'm producing, right? And I just start, I go in Ableton or FL and I start doing my drums and I start doing my chords and whatever, and you get a cool idea going. Well, what if you get stuck, or what if, let's say, you even produce the whole song, and by the end of it, you say, okay, I'm ready to mix. And if you've been watching me so far, I've talked a lot about when you do mixing and mastering, you want to use a reference track. Well, where do you get your reference track from? So let me show you. This will be kind of the first cool tip for the day of how to use this stuff. So let's say I was producing an EDM song. I go and do it in Ableton or FL or Logic or whatever. And it turns out that I'm doing the EDM song at, let's say, 123 BPM. And then let's also say I'm doing it in A minor. So if I look here on the wheel, A minor is 8A, right? So what I can do is all these, and I'm sure all of you already have a large collection of songs and music that you can load up in a record box type of thing. And record box, there is a free version that you can do this with. That's why I wanted to show this one first. So if I go over to record box and I say, okay, I'm producing a song that I know is it's 8A, which is, again, 8A is A minor. So when I go into record box here, I'm going to go and look for my 8 folder that I've had to separate these myself, but you can learn how to do that pretty easily. So these are all of my songs in the key of A minor. So that's pretty cool, right? Now I can sort my songs in a lot of different ways, but typically you're going to probably sort them by BPM. So I can then go down, I know I'm in A minor, and I can scroll down and I can find all of my songs. I think I said 123 BPM, right? So I've got right here instantly, this is 6 tracks that I can immediately use because I know it's in the same key and I know it's in the exact same BPM. And you don't have to do the exact BPM. Like if I was doing this, I may look around 122, 124, 125 maybe. But the key is you're going to have a plethora of songs that you can immediately listen to, because what a lot of people, I think, in the beginning when they're producing don't understand is, especially when it comes to mixing and things like picking, especially we all know how important the kick drum is, right? The almighty kick drum. Well, let's say you're producing a song in A minor and you're having trouble picking a really good kick drum that's super powerful and sounds good with your track. Well, it could be a number of things. It could be your kick drum is too short, maybe it's too long, maybe it's too clicky, maybe it has too much bass. All of these different questions that, especially when you're starting out in the beginning, it's hard for you to know what's right, because we literally all probably have, I have probably, like, no lie, like 10,000 kick drums just in samples alone on my hard drive. So it's like, well, what do I pick? I don't even know where to start. So what I would recommend you do is you find some reference songs like this. And the reason it's important to find songs in the same key and at the same BPM that are already mixed and mastered, that already we know sound pretty good because they've been released on labels like this and DJs are playing them out. And this is not just for DJ music. You can use this for rock music. I've used any music there is, you can use this method for. But the key is, pun intended there, when you know the key, certain drums, certain sounds, certain lengths of drums are going to sound better at different BPMs. So if you have, let's say, like a dubstep song that's at 70 BPM and you have a lot of space in between your quarter notes. So the quarter notes on 70 BPM is like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, maybe you're trying to time your snare drum's reverb because the quarter notes are so spaced out in a 70 BPM dubstep example. Well, you could go in and find, okay, well, let me go look up some of my 70 BPM stuff and listen to how these people have used reverb on their snare. Let me listen to how long their snare reverb is. Let me listen to how long their kick drums are. And you also, one quick note, you have to be careful when you get into the lower BPMs like 70, 71, 72. Often you can also substitute stuff down in the like 140 to 150 range as well. So you can basically double or halve your BPMs, and those can be used kind of interchangeably. The counts may be different, meaning 140 may actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 70 may be half that, 1, 2, 3, 4. But because the divisions are kind of the ratios are similar, you can use those kind of interchangeably, and I'll probably talk more about that in the second or third lesson this week. But I wanted to show you this tool that, again, if you find songs that are in the same key and at the same BPM, you can quickly go find these songs now as reference tracks to throw into your production. and you can listen to them right next door to your song and say, okay, where are they having power that I'm lacking power? You know, where are their melodies, you know, coming through where mine's not coming through? So a tricky one that we all run into is with the bass. At certain keys, like literally in certain keys, a bass note is going to sound more powerful than in other keys. So the lower you go, the more powerful the bass is going to get, but eventually that lowest bass note that you use in your song is going to start getting too low to where you can't hear it, like on your phone speakers, for example. Or when you go in the club, maybe it's too high to really hit the subs in the club, or it's too low, you know, all that stuff. So this is a super great method to use because, again, you're going to be able to find tracks that are right in the same kind of genre as what you're producing. Because, again, we talked about tempo before. Genre is highly dependent typically on BPM. So if you can find stuff in a similar genre, or you can find stuff in a similar key as well, and ideally you can do both, and that's why I wanted to show you this method, this is going to be a great way to find reference tracks. And then the other thing that's cool about this, let's say you say, okay, you mix your track, you master it. Well, what you can do then is you can go down here and throw it into your record box. And when you go throw up this track, you can actually then play this track, and you can play your track right after it. And when you get out of your DAW and you're not staring at all the plugins and all the levels and whatnot, you can just listen back to back in your DJ software. And as soon as you transition from one song to yours, you're going to be able to hear, oh man, my bass seems a little low in my song compared to the other track that I just played. Or maybe my vocals are too high, or they're too low, or, you know, whatever it may be. Maybe my mastering isn't loud enough. Maybe it's too loud. So this is, again, a great way to do that. So the other software I wanted to recommend for you today. So yeah, go grab this Camelot wheel. As you can see, they have them on Google for free. You can just download it. And I don't really DJ as much anymore as I used to, but I pretty much had this wheel memorized to where I pretty much would know, like, you know, oh, 8A is A minor, you know, 4A is F minor. Like, I kind of had it memorized. But the cool thing, again, is when you go into your DJ software, I made it to where all my folders would sort these for me. So anything in the one folder, I knew typically if I transitioned from, you know, a song that was 1A or 1B, I could transition comfortably from that song because I knew that they were going to be in the same relative keys, you know. So I'll expand more on that topic on another lesson because there's a lot more to be said about transitioning, and I didn't want to get too much into specific DJ techniques, especially today, because like I said, the key this week is I'm trying to show you these DJ techniques that you can use for your productions. You know, it's not so much about teaching you how to DJ. We may cover some of that as well, but it's more about how can you use these DJ tools to bring them in the studio with you and make your productions better. So the other DJ software I wanted to recommend was Virtual DJ. And Virtual DJ is interesting because in the beginning, a lot of people kind of, you know, hated on Virtual DJ. You know, it was like, oh, if you don't use real turntables, you know, you're not a DJ, and virtual DJs, you know, not you know, good or whatever. And I have to say, I've used quite a few different DJ softwares. Now, when I would DJ typically club type stuff, I would use Rekordbox, and Rekordbox, you actually just put your library on a USB flash drive, and then when you go to the club, you just plug your flash drive into the CDJs, and there is no computer involved. Now, when I do other types of DJing for different scenarios, I will bring Virtual DJ out on a laptop, usually because it's more open format, so I want to just have my whole music library with me, and I'll bring Virtual DJ out for that. I've been using Virtual DJ for probably almost 15 years alongside these other softwares, and like I said, mostly using Rekordbox. But Virtual DJ has proven over the years to be super stable. They have really great progressive ideas and features that they keep introducing, and they actually just came out with a new version that's very interesting because they allow you to essentially kind of make acapellas on the fly. If you're interested in remixing, that's going to be something super cool. I haven't had a chance to look at it in depth yet, but I tried playing with it the other day and it seemed like it's going to be something pretty powerful. So Virtual DJ has a similar setup as Rekordbox, where when you load in your music, it's going to analyze the BPMs and the keys, and you can go in and sort all of your music and quickly find some of these reference tracks that I was talking about. And I believe the free version of Virtual DJ also allows you to mix two songs at the same time. The free version of Rekordbox, I don't believe allows you to actively mix two songs together, whereas Virtual DJ does. So if you're looking for something to play with and to get started with, I would probably recommend Virtual DJ first, just because they allow you to mix those two songs together. So again, the idea being when you produce your song, put it on one deck, throw up, a comparable song reference track on the other deck, and then kind of mix back and forth between them and see where your song is maybe lacking power or where does it compare to these other tracks. And you can keep loading up different tracks to compare it against. So those are a couple key tools that I would highly recommend if you've never checked those out before. Go ahead and grab those. Like I said, if you're really just getting started, Virtual DJ is probably your better bet because you're going to be able to do a little bit more right out the box with it. And start looking at that wheel that I showed you, the Camelot wheel it's called, and start seeing basically how it's set up, and understand also, I guess I'll throw in there if you go looking into that. So the Camelot wheel is basically what we call, and we didn't cover this in the music theory lesson yet, but we will in another one. The Camelot wheel basically, it goes in fifths, so that you may have heard something called the circle of fifths. So basically, if I start at C major here, 8B, and then I go to G major, that's what we call in music theory a fifth. And then if I go from G to D major, that's another fifth. So I'll get more into depth why this works, but the idea is when you're mixing as a DJ, you can start on A and you can go either to another song that's 8, I'm sorry, not A, you can start in 8. So let's say you started at a song that's 8B. So that means we're in C major. If I go to G major, I can go up to 9B, and it's going to sound, when I transition with the different key, it's going to sound like it works together pretty well. I can stay with another 8B song in C major, or I can go to F major. And the reason why this works is because you only have, in G major, you only have one sharp in G major, and you only have one sharp in F major. So most of the keys, most of the notes rather, are the same as in C major. So whatever song you throw in there, most likely it's going to sound pretty good because they're literally using most of the same notes in the song. So when you're mixing, you can stay at an 8B song, you can go up to 9B, or you can go down to 7B. There's other little tips and tricks as well, like if I'm mixing in a C major song, 8B. Now, we did cover this in the music theory lessons. I showed you the harmonic minor, which means C major is all the white keys on the keyboard. A minor is also all of the white keys on the keyboard, except you're just starting on A to make the A minor scale. C major is all the white keys, but you're starting on C. So it's literally the same notes. We're just starting in a different place to give us that relative minor, I may have said harmonic minor, the relative minor key. So 8B and 8A are essentially the same key, just starting from a different place to give it that tonality. So that's another option I have if I'm mixing. I can go from 8B to 8A, or like I said, I can go, up and down the wheel. So I'll maybe cover that a little bit more, but like I said, this week, I didn't want to go too in depth about necessarily actual DJ techniques. I just wanted to show you how you can use some of these techniques for your productions. So let's say, for example, you are doing a song and you started in C minor, and this is kind of the final example I'll give you today. So let's say you start a song off in C minor and you start messing with it and you're kind of just in the, the production phase of it, and you go check it against another, let's say EDM song. Well, you're going to find out that, a lot of EDM songs tend to be in F minor or F sharp minor, because F sharp around F minor, F sharp is kind of the lowest place where your bass notes will hit subs in a club environment really hard and full. Anything lower than that, and it's really hard for the subs to reproduce those waves because they're so big and they're so long. So a lot of producers, for especially like stuff where it's dubstep, where they're using those super low basses, will typically, you'll find, end up in like a F sharp or a F sharp minor key, because those are the most powerful places you can physically get the bass notes to sound. So if you start off, let's say in C minor, you might say, oh, well, my bass is not powerful enough. And that may just be because you can't literally get the notes low enough to be powerful. So maybe you can go down, this wheel of fifths. And if you're going in reverse, it actually works in fourths. So if I'm going over here from C major to G major, that's a fifth. G major to D major, that's a fifth. If I'm going from C major to F major, if I'm going in the counterclockwise direction, that's actually, it works in fourths. So clockwise, I'm going in fifths. Counterclockwise, I'm going in fourths. So it kind of works in a similar fashion. So if you started off in C minor and you're like, man, I'm just not getting my bass to hit hard enough, or even like if you're producing hip hop or rap stuff, 808 kick drums, if you're trying to produce in C, you may have difficulty getting a kick drum low enough to be powerful, but then when you play it an octave up, it's too high. So this is, again, a good method to where you can say, okay, well, maybe I need to switch the key of the song, but you don't want to just arbitrarily kind of, just start bringing keys, up or down. You can look at this wheel and say, oh, okay, if I go from C to F, that's going to be the fourth, which I know is going to be very similar because it's using a lot of the same notes as the C key that I was using. So I think I'm going to leave it there for you guys. I know that's probably a lot to chew on, but I wanted to show you some practical examples today. Some of these DJ tools that I've used, again, for many years to help me with my productions. So again, just remember, this is stuff that's going to help you with reference tracks. And the best thing you can do when you're producing, especially in the beginning, is find good reference tracks. It's going to make your life easier, because if you're not listening to reference tracks when you're mixing or when you're even producing a song, you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to finally throw up a reference track, or worst case is you're going to go to a club, hand your song to a DJ, they're going to play it, and they're going to be like, whoa, this doesn't sound professional. It's not even in the same ballpark. So, same thing for radio stuff. If you're making rock music or any type of music, you need to use reference tracks so you can know where your songs are in the grand scheme of things, mixing, mastering, production-wise. You need to get a good, honest assessment and be honest with yourself when you listen to these reference tracks. So again, this is going to help you find better reference tracks. You're going to have more options to choose from. And also, one final thing I guess I'll throw out there is you can also go to Google. So let's say you're mixing, your song, and you're like, okay, I'm doing a song in B minor at 120 BPM. You can just go to Google, and they have songs like listed where they will show you, different songs that are actually in that category. So you have to be a little more creative when you're searching like that, but it is possible to do it that way as well. I highly recommend getting Virtual DJ first, and you can start analyzing your music library that way. And then if you want to get into actual DJing, that's a great place to start as well. All right, you guys and girls, I hope that was helpful. I hope it gives you something you can use today when you are producing your music. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to send me something in the comments or send me a DM at the Producer School Music Producer School page on Facebook. And I'll be back Thursday with some more tips and tricks with this DJ and stuff for you. So thanks again. Y'all have a great day. I appreciate y'all, and have a great one. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.